Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our July webinar. I'm Jessie McClellan, the Executive Director of the Georgia Arborist Association. Thank you so much for joining us for our monthly series. This month's speaker is Rolando Orellana, and he's going to be speaking on trees and stormwater runoff. Just a few housekeeping notes before we officially get started. If you have questions this evening, we'd love to hear from you. Please put those in the Q&A, and we will save them until the end of the presentation. And hopefully we'll have time at the end to answer some of those Q&A. You feel free to chat amongst yourselves or make comments in the chat, but I will be monitoring the Q&A for those questions. If you are here for CEU credit, I will put a survey at the end of the webinar in the chat for you to fill out. If you fill out that survey with your ISA certification number, we will submit that for CEU credit. Again, that will be at the end of the presentation. I hope you'll join us for next month's webinar. I don't have the information on our website yet, but I hope to in the coming day or two. Next month's webinar is going to be on trees and climate change with a UGA climatologist, Pam Knox. So that should be an exciting webinar. That will be in the noon lunch and learn format. We try to alternate every other month to accommodate as many schedules as possible. I hope you'll also join us for our summer workshop coming up next month, almost exactly a month from now, at the Griffin campus of UGA. We'll be talking all about storm-related topics. So that is one of our biggest events of the year. So I hope that you'll join us for our summer workshop at the UGA Griffin campus. So we'll go ahead and get started. It is now 6:30. So Rolando, thank you so much for joining us this evening, and I look forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Jessie. Hello, everyone. All right. So as Jessie said, my name is Rolando Orellana. I work for the UGA Center for Urban Ag in Griffin, which is a support unit that the College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences have in the Griffin campus. And then we have several programs that work directly with the industry. In this particular case, with the trees and stormwater. This is a very exciting time to talk about stormwater. Stormwater management runoff in trees, the city of Atlanta and the areas surrounded the metropolitan area, trees is a big part and big component of the industry, and stormwater runoff is becoming a problem for different municipalities and corporate and private development. So we are currently developing a green infrastructure project with the support of the Georgia Environmental Protection Division and the EPA to develop this demonstration site in the Griffin campus. So it's very exciting to talk about this topic today. I'm gonna play this little video. There is, I don't know if some of you will be able to hear it, but there's no anybody speaking or anything like that. It's just some of the flooding that just happened in Texas and everything, just so you can see how the stormwater is becoming a more problematic every day as infrastructure, urban areas are growing exponentially, and the infrastructure is lacking in some of those municipalities or cities. We have some of those fatalities. As you can see, the water in the roads. It is very devastating situation that happened in the state of Texas. You can see some of the and the highways and residential areas as well. Okay, so why stormwater runoff is a problem in cities? You can see the amount of water that we get here in the state of Georgia I was a couple weeks ago, I was in the state of Montana, and their yearly average is 13 inches. I think we get 13 inches within the first couple months or 2, 3 months here in the state of Georgia. So it's definitely becoming a big issue here in the South. Um, the water that we get in from rain is so much that it goes in. We don't have so much infrastructure built in. All that water will just run off into the water rivers, creeks, and other water bodies, so it will not get infiltrated. In natural settings, you can see all that water or rainfall will be absorbed by the soil, and it will support the growth and maintain the plants and the vegetation, trees, etc. And it will follow or it go to the normal water cycle. But in urban settings, that will become a little more complex. Um, it will go to the roads, to the buildings and parking areas, all this impervious surfaces and everything. I was reading that approximately 0.43% of the world impervious surfaces accounts for around 580,000 square kilometers of impervious surfaces, which is a staggering amount. Can you imagine if we can say, if we ask ourselves, do we have infrastructure to help that, you know, water infiltration? Probably the answer will be no, because especially in developing countries, that infrastructure is lacking, or probably it's not even the plans to build something that it will better the water infiltration. So, those pathways, the rain pathways. So we see the water cycle, you can see here, when it rains, in the mountains or in any surfaces, with the precipitation, you see some of the water that'll go through the rivers, through the lakes. Some will be infiltrated and go to the water table, or to the water underground storage. Some will be in small lakes or springs, and they will end up falling into the ocean. But in some areas will go to other, like rivers and creeks and lakes, etc. And then eventually through evaporations will go back to the environment, and then it will go to the cycle. But you know, some of those paths will go directly to the land. Some will be intercepted by the vegetation, so the trees. Some of them will be infiltrated. Some will be stored, and some will go back to the environment, to the evapotranspiration. Where is a problem? It is a problem, as we saw in the video. We've been having so many of those problems in big and urban areas like the city of Atlanta. As you can see, the parking areas and the roads are some of the more common and more built impervious surfaces that we have to deal with. Because this will eventually collect so much pollutants, will cause erosion and degrading the water quality in the ecosystems in general. This might be affected by soil conditions leading to infiltration, excess, or overflow. So we have soil conditions that are poor drainage. In the state of Georgia, we have the red clays. Eventually, that leads to poor drainage. And in the areas that we're going to be having vegetation, we need to improve those soil conditions to be able to better infiltration, or develop infrastructure that it will support or mitigate that poor water infiltration. What factors might affect that? In areas will be the slope, how is the terrain, the vegetation, the type of density that we have, the soil structure, the silt, sand, or clay, and the drainage, what type of drainage we have available for the water, and the frequency of the rain that we have here. You probably know this, and I live in the city of Smyrna. There has been a lot of rain lately, but when I ask the people that lives in Griffin, there is not the same intensity or the same frequency that we have just in recent weeks. How the soil structure and infiltration will affect that. So sands will infiltrate at a rate, the inches per hour of 0.8. Loamy soils will be 0.2 to 0.4, and clay, with the very poor infiltration for 0.04 to 0.2. And in Georgia, we have an average an infiltration rate of 0.2 because we have the majority of our soils is red clay. High clay compacted poor infiltration. We have a lot of construction and development in the state of Georgia, and that, all that needs to develop, residential or commercial areas are becoming or making, even bigger the issue. We should incorporate some better mix of soils to be able to better that infiltration. We can add some of those compost, topsoil, and manure and some of those things to be able to better the water retention. Um, you know, UGA extension recommend 8 to 10 inches, depend on, the area that you want to be planting. But for trees, I would imagine this probably even better. This is some of the materials that we will have for better drainage: vermiculite, mulch, compost, sand, and perlite will be something that we should be more aware and be able to utilize when we are developing areas that will have trees. You can see this is the Atlanta Historic Fort Worth Park. This is a very beautiful place that mimics natural hydrological processes. As you can see, there's a combination of just water, but the trees and this green, beautiful space. I think that is something that it will improve life quality, and people will enjoy going on walks over there and having more better time than if something is just concrete or buildings and whatnot. This is something that is for great infrastructure. You see about the tension point, pond for storm drain. Some of those are in different commercial areas and residential areas. You can see those are hard to maintain. They're very expensive and are becoming very common and have been common in the state of Georgia and the metropolitan area in general. This is a publication that it was published by the University of Malaysia. This is you can go over there and find this publication, but this is a very nice layout of how the pollutions get in the water through all these processes, and how the pollutants get into the water masses. Why trees are important in our industry when we're talking about stormwater. Trees are a natural stormwater manager. You can see here, you see the rain, we got the evapotranspirations, then the water infiltration. You see the water runoff in impervious surfaces. You can see how big the tree ball is. You can see how nice it is. But when this tree absorbs its water and translocated through the vascular system of the plant or the tree, and right now that we have very hot weather, their exchange of gases in the trees will be losing water. So that's going to make the trees require more water. And then so when it's rain, the needs for water is going to be greater. So this will definitely mitigate what is runoff of stormwater runoff in urban settings, and it will support the infiltration and that water needs. So you can see here the interception and evaporation or evapotranspiration. What happened is when the water hit the plant or the trees leaves, some of that water will stay there. Some of that water will be evaporate. Some of the water go down through the stem of the plant, is going to go and infiltrate into the soil, and then it's going to be absorbed by the tree root ball. A bigger the tree canopy, the bigger the interception. So that is very important. There is research that it says that trees will intercept around 13% of the total rain and or the full amount of rainfall. So that is very impressive. But the research says it's around 8 to 11%. But there are studies, especially in northeastern United States, they say it can go to up to 13%. So that's very impressive. So the water that is in the leaves will be evaporates into the atmosphere or is absorbed in the tree itself for transpiration, reducing the overall volume of runoff. So 13%, as you can see, this is pretty good. Mature trees are particularly valuable in rainfall interceptions because they have a bigger canopy, they have a bigger root system, so they cover bigger area, and it will be very important. That is why it's so important to provide the conditions that we need to mitigate this better tree establishment and provide the condition that the tree needs to become mature. Infiltration enhancement, tree roots and organic matter or leaf litter on the ground surfaces help loosen and aerate the soil in general. All that organic matter that is deposited into the soil, it support water infiltration and water detention in the soil. So I know a lot of times here in urban areas, we blow a lot of those leaves. So sometimes those natural areas will be nice to just keep the leaves so that can get decomposed and eventually becomes part of the soil structure. Pollution infiltration, trees and surrounding soil act as a natural filters, capturing and breaking down the pollutants and before they reach waterways. So I don't know if we got to think about this in cities. We got oil from the vehicles, gasolines, we got pets, we got fertilizers, nitrile mixers, so many different pollutants that will eventually through runoff will go to the waterways. And then so all those pollutants will be filtered or at least mitigated by the have many trees in urban cities. Also, these trees support stabilization and erosion control. You can see some of the root systems when they're really well established, they're incredible big, and they will support the erosion management areas like you see in this area right here. That leads us to, how using trees and, stormwater runoff or green infrastructure projects. By the way, what is green infrastructure? You can see this is practices that'll help preserve areas and mimic natural settings. As you can see here to the left, the conservation of forested lands, you can see all trees, but then we have residential areas when we have urban and tree canopies. By preserving those and building more better infiltration infrastructure, including green roofs and rain gardens and bioswales, and disconnecting that spot will be able to help infiltrate water into the soil. And then so here, some of the municipalities and other organizations in the state of Georgia have developed and built stormwater wetlands that support and help to infiltrate that water into the ground. Bioretention cells and planters. This one, some constructions there will have between 18 inches of gravels underneath, and then maybe a couple of feet of soil to be able to help to infiltrate the water and retain for a specific amount of time. And eventually that's going to go dry, and then there you have it. There you have a good infiltration. But 18 inches of gravel layer will help support that infiltration. You can see here, this is a better sketch of what bioretention cell is. You can see gravel in the bottom here with the existing. Then you have the bioretention soil would be around 2 feet or 24 inches. Then you have some of the perforated pipes to be able to have the outflow of the area. And then the vegetation, as you can see in the area, will be but composted of native plants or plant materials that it can be very useful. It will have also an overflow line that it will, prevent from completely inundate the area. And so it has a layer, uh, outlet for the excess water. Then there's bioretention planters. These are planters that are going into the buildings and to close to the roads area, so landscapers can have some of the, green spaces and be able to also mitigate the lack of infiltration. Vegetated curb and extension improve pedestrian safety and calms traffic, and there's some of the benefits, but it also helps that infiltration. They call it bumped out. As you can see in this photo, the drainage is right in this area right here. And this some of the other infrastructure, you can lead the water to to the soil. Plastic grids, we're using some of these plastic grids. So many areas in the state of Georgia and the metropolitan areas like grass. But I think with these plastic grids, you can put a layer of gravel, and then you can still put a small layer of soil, so you can have some grass, and that will give you a very good, nice looking grass area, but it's going to be very permeable, and that will support water infiltration as well. Dry wells, those are probably very common, that it can be used to, connect the downspout of your house. And it will drain all that area. So, this is are becoming very expensive. I mean, very not expensive, very common green infrastructure project. More and more every year, we have companies that are developing and presenting options to develop green infrastructure projects like this. French drains, we also built one of these French drains at the UGA demo site in the Griffin campus. It's something that is easy, very common, and is a very doable in residential areas. Some of the other stormwater options that can be utilized. So you can see here, you have a layer of soil, to the surface, then you plant your grass or garden or ornamentals. And then you have this area with the gravel river rock, and then you have the perforated pipes that you can have. And you can see in the photo of the right, and you can see that's how it looks. But it can be smaller rock if you have it close to the parking lots and the more impervious surfaces close to the buildings. Then we have bioswales. Trees from water by horizontally through vegetation. So we also have one of those bioswales at the demo site in the Griffin campus. It's a very nice, like a buffer zone before you get to the rain garden, to lead all that water excess to go into the rain garden. So those also are very common and utilized practices in the green infrastructure. So since the Georgia Arborist Association, we deal with trees and incorporated trees into urban water systems is very relevant. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that without going too much in details about engineers and everything. I just don't want to come here and tell you you should do this and do this because this is how designs. I'm not a landscape engineer, but I think we can touch some of this practices. Intentional tree selection and placement in urban areas is very important to understand why you want to place a specific type of trees in areas and in the areas that you want to be able to develop. So native and climate adapted trees, I was looking and I found this book is Common Trees to See in Atlanta, Georgia. You can see river birch and loblolly and white oaks and eastern red cedars are some of the trees that you probably will be using in project that you will be working on. This is a good list. Also, I found this from a publication in the University of Georgia. Flowering dogwoods are beautiful, are very popular, and they're not as big. They will be appropriate for some very urban settings. Then we got the red maple. It's fast growing. So within, a few years it's gonna be completely established and it will have this beautiful red foliage. And then the tulip poplars, the sweet gums, American beech, redwood, eastern hemlock, all those are really good materials that can be utilized in some of the projects. And you're probably already working with those type of trees. Um, So engineer system utilizing trees, tree trenches and tree boxes. You can see this right here. These are becoming popular. This is in Iowa. Um, the concept is that you have this tree in the area. You have the runoff and to the left near the vehicle, and you have that surface, and then the tree will have a space in between the crown and the part of the stem, and then there will be a soil layer before you get to the gravel or perforated pipe. In the middle of the gravel will be the perforated pipe that will be like the outlet of the water, but the runoff will get into this area, will end up drain into the pipe, and it will be leading away to the Pine Tree Brook. But this area, this box is something, a really neat concept that can utilize a lot of that water. It can be used to support the trees. And then if they are in a specific area, infrastructure can be built to support all the surrounding trees. Um, the EPA has a publication. That publication, I think, was in collaboration with Davy Tree, and this is about structural soils. Very good publication. I recommend you to use. I think it's called from uh, uh, the stormwater trees to the I don't remember. I'm gonna find it at the end of the yeah, there you go. Stormwaters to street trees. There you go. That's a PDF you can download up. This is the sorry. This is the what the website. You can download that PDF. Anyways, the structural soil is a specialized soil mix designed to support both tree growth and the load of varying requirements of paved surfaces like sidewalks and parking lots. It combines a rigid load bearing stone matrix with a proportion of uncompacted soil to allow the root growth and nutrients access. This innovative approach enables the integration of trees into urban environments um, without compromising the structural integrity of the pavements or the health of the trees. So this is a very interesting way, and it's a very good research that was done for urban trees, and I think you will really enjoy this publication. It's a good read. Rain gardens have become a very great way to help stormwater runoff. There's kind of like a landscape depression designed to collect, amounts of water and help that water infiltration. Obviously, you have to do also some kind of building and add some at least 18 inches of gravel, and then a layer of a good soil that support uh, root growth for the plants in the area, and that will support that water infiltration. In most cases, several times the size of the rain garden will collect that amount of water. So recharges surface aquifers, and it's low maintenance. We don't have to do a lot to it, and it's a conclave of flowers bed. 50% sands, 5% topsoil, and 25 compost will be the top layer. After the gravel, no more than 10% clay. So should be, like as we mentioned before, 20 to 24 inches, around 2 feet. So we have that good amount of soil, loosened soil for the root system to develop very healthy. Oh, it says that they have an average of 0.5 infiltration inches per year. Receive up to 10 times larger than its size means that the water that will help infiltrate will have be 10 times its size. Can receive water from downspout and funnel across lawns and pavements. This is some of the things that we did in the Griffin campus. We connect the UGA Research and Education Garden building downspout to a cistern, a collecting tank, and then we connect that tank to the rain garden in the demo site. So that's one good way to use and help that water infiltrate. So it's this the same thing. Cistern is a large scale. The gravity will helping accumulate. There is some of these tanks are bigger than that. Actually, the Coastal Botanical Garden of Savannah, which is a garden the UGA manage in the coastal areas, they have a massive tank to collect the rain water and then collect it into that big system. Permeable pavers or permeable pavements. This is a low water to infiltrate to reduce runoff and paved surfaces. This is great. I seen so many different places that these permeable pavers have been utilized. I was impressed that how many pervious paver there are installed in Gwinnett Tech, for instance. They've been doing this for a long time. So a lot of municipalities are doing this thing, so it's becoming very relevant. Again, the process on this will be dig into at least 18 inches to 24 inches of, deep in the soil and add gravel to support that, and then a small layer of, it don't have to be a lot of organic matter because there's not going to be much of a growing over there, but some loosened soil so you can help the infiltration, and then it will sustain the area so it doesn't completely sink eventually. So the gravel will support a lot of the weight. So we got to remember we have to have best management practices when we incorporate trees into the cities and to mitigate stormwater runoff. So one of those things that proper watering, pruning, and mulching and protecting trees during the construction, you probably know that the trees probably are most likely to die when they're in the establishment periods if they don't have enough water access. So providing that water, they will protect the trees from eventually dying because they're susceptible at that time of establishment. Providing mulch and any other surface covers that will protect them to loosen a lot of the water. Remember, so water will majority of the water requirements, or trees will grab the water from the soil, and then so as large as are they get, and the bigger requirement they will have until the first couple years until they have to completely build up the root system and they can provide for themselves and search the water in the soil. But so that's very important. Some of the people utilizes those gator bags, and those gator bags are good and they're bad. They're good because they have the water over there. They're bad because people forget about them and then they don't replenish that water, and then they're used for nothing. So I think if there is a company or a managers or organization that is very committed to establish those trees and use those gator bags, that will be a great tool. Obviously, have trees on compacted soils. So you probably are very familiar with this. When we have compacted soils, we have a very poor quality plant materials, unless it's very healthy soil that is aerated and has enough looseness so the infiltration can happen and the water can be retained and the trees can utilize the excess water, and all the physiological process within the trees will happen in a way that is healthy and it supports the growth of the trees, and we'll have beautiful trees. Some of those benefits, the trees are the lungs of the cities or the area, so it is important to have that air quality. By having more trees, and we'll have better air quality. That is something added to the benefits of having trees for mitigation of stormwater runoff. I like this. This is, temperature or cooling in the areas. Parks areas, you will see average of 34 degrees in certain areas, while in the very developed populated areas will be 40 degrees Celsius. So that's important to see how trees are a very important part to the cooling in different areas. Increase biodiversity in habitats. The trees provide homes to food sources and urban wildlife, which is very important to remember that. And that will be something that you would like to remember your clients when you're, bidding for projects and whatnot. Obviously, and this is across the board. It's not just the green industry, across the board in the industry. One of the reasons why people do things for trees, for landscapers and everything is enhance the landscape. It provides property values, and that is very connected. That's why the green industry is so big in the state of Georgia. Not just, turf and ornamentals and trees and everything. Everything as a whole is a network of practices that are happening to enhance and beautify landscapes in the cities and in areas where utilize those services. So that is directly connected to property values, and that is very important to sustain. And economic benefits, trees can reduce energy costs for buildings through shades and windbreaks. You can see here, in a year, tree will absorb around 750 gallons of stormwater. That is a very good reason to have more trees. And filters around 60 pounds of pollutants from the air. It cools around 10 air conditioners running continuously. So this is very important to remember when we are going to be using trees for projects that are stormwater runoff mitigation. Okay. Okay. And well, the EPA says in that publication that I was talking about, the economic savings, the trees can reduce runoff by millions of gallons and save cities millions of dollars on mitigation. Overall, stormwater runoff is becoming exponentially more complex. In the smaller cities or sleeping communities that they call, they're growing, with a lot of green infrastructure or mitigation for water infiltration, and that's becoming and adding more and more to the program. Landscape industry uses an incredibly amount of chemicals, granular fertilizers and chemicals to help control pests and, and that's part of the pollutant and all the pets, feces on the pets. All those are something that we're not thinking about when we're developing any sites in municipalities. I think will be influenced by its residents, by people developing and investing in these practices. And I think you, as companies or members of the industry, of tree industry, there are pushing for this or these practices will eventually, um, dissuade politicians so they can invest on green spaces and more stormwater runoff mitigation practices. The EPD is completely funded. This project is called the Green Storm Demonstration Site. We have 9 green infrastructure practices. You can see here to the left, that is the removal and reinstall the impervious pavers and install pervious pavers that we have here. That is work that it was done with a local landscape company. They're specializing more and more. And then the installation of that water collection tank, that is, you can see that's what it is connected to the bioswale and the rain garden. And then we have a French drain in this grid. As you can see, this plastic grid that we have, one we will install it, some grass, and then we leave it with gravel. This is along the road, so you can see there that vehicles can drive by. Is not going to affect any of that. So that can be something that can be utilized for, I don't know, driveways or some other areas in residential areas or even commercial areas that can be very well utilized. Um, the project will be finalized in the next couple months. We are in the process of developing extension publication for each of the practices. And there will be a ribbon cutting in the next month or two, because while we also building the signs and the QR codes so people can go themselves and scan the QR codes, and they can go to the publication and the development with photos of that particular practice. And then so that's the focus or the goal is to help residents to kind of understand in how easy those practices can be achieved in their houses or residences. Or the city of Griffin is also very interested in developing these practices in parks and other areas that are common areas for residents. We also in the process of an additional grant that we're going to use, we're going to have with the EPD and EPA to replicate this site in the coastal area and the Savannah area. So I think eventually we might want to build something similar or more appropriate for the city of Atlanta. So I think this will be a very good time to get into this green infrastructure practices in the United States. So I don't know if you have any questions. Maybe I have went too fast, but I was terrified that I was going to go too slow because I have 60 slides.
You did great. Thank you. There were a couple of questions. One, just can you provide the article reporting that trees capture 13% of rainfall?
Yes, I will look that and I will send you an email. That's if that's okay with you. I'll send you
Yes.
an email and you can share with the people who attended the event today.
Perfect.
Yeah,
So
so I think that was a publication that came out of the New Hampshire. And I thought that was a very good numbers, and I captured that. So definitely I can send out the publication for you guys can have it.
great. I will, this is being recorded and it will be on our YouTube channel. I'll send a link to the recording as well as a link to that article. Regarding the bumped out feature, is there any evidence that the rate of infiltration decreases as the plants mature and fill more of the soil space?
I am not very familiar with that one. I was talking to my colleague Martin Wunderly earlier, and then we were talking about with another UGA professor, Gary Hawkins, that we kind of need to find a way so we can measure the water infiltration, so we can have a specific data to measure how that will support the trees and how that's going to enhance the infiltration and whatnot. But we don't have it. We just have, we added this as other. I think this was also in a publication in a report came out of the Iowa. Where I'm not very familiar with this, so I wouldn't be able to tell you more about it.
This question says, I'm being told green infrastructure is too expensive. Do you know what the long-term savings of spending more money upfront to install green infrastructure BMTs in new construction?
I, I how do I say this? Okay, so it is expensive in very urbanized areas because if you're gonna be putting pervious paper, you have to remove that, and that is expensive. And then so unless it's something an improvement that you will have, but I will how I say this. So if you have companies that specialize on this, they will be expensive because these projects are somewhat specialized and they will be charging more. But if you can have companies that normally do pervious pavers, impervious pavers, they can help you out. In reference to the long term, I think it is the environmental value of this eventually will have a great value for you. About water, using that water to support trees and ornamentals and other plant material over there, there will be also a great value. Obviously, water is expensive in a metropolitan area, so I think that will be, but I think to me, in my opinion, the bigger benefit will be long term. How much water you will be saving. You're saving the resource. You supporting and helping clean up the waterways, which is very important because we all of us kind of forgot about it and we just think about or gardening, and then we forgot about the bigger picture. Um, it's very hard to argue with the economic or the economics of this, especially in urban areas. And I understand. I don't have any hard data that we can provide you to say, oh yeah, this savings will give you this over time in 4 or 5 years periods. But just with the fact that we using 1/3 of the water in the United States is for water outdoors, meaning landscapers and everything. That is a huge impact. So I can talk about other things for economics, but I just don't want because there is no much research. I think we universities, when it comes down to urban trees and green infrastructure, there is a new initiatives, and I think more research needs to be done. I think more people asking about this will prompt universities to develop more research projects that will yield hard data so we can compare systems and have better, decision power.
Have you used any Silvacell or other pavement suspension structures to provide more volume of uncompacted soils for infiltration and root growth areas in projects?
What pavers?
Silvacell?
I was talking to somebody who is called Horizon Roofscapes, and they were talking about those papers actually yesterday's. What I would do, I'm just gonna probably talk to them, and that's gonna be another bullet point so I can get back to you on that. I won't be able to tell you much about that, so I apologize for that. But yes, this company that are installing the green roof in our demo site, we're talking about that. That's a company out of Atlanta that they are having some of those projects.
What is the expected lifespan of the plastic pieces used underground, like water tanks, grid to drive on, etc.?
So when we bought it, they said that it will, be good between 5 and 8 years. Um, the reality is they're not gonna go anywhere if they're in an area where there's no much traffic, there's no more vehicle traffic or something, they will last for, way beyond 15 years. because we're looking at the one that we have over there. Nobody has, we didn't put anything, the vehicles go around. I think they will last for a long time. One thing that I noticed is the grass over there, we use tift of grass, did not establish very well. We might have to do something or do something else because the layer of soil, it was very thin. So the grass did not establish. But the plastic grid was intact, is there. So maybe some type of reseeding every year will help to have very nice grass, or put in a thicker layer of soil. But the grid itself, the plastic will last a long time. When we read there's 5 to 8 years, maybe 10 years based on a high trafficked areas, because some people use it for um, uh, driveways and whatnot. But if you don't use it for that, I think they will definitely increase lifespan of the plastic grids.
Does Georgia have irrigation supply ditch associations? Are there community user groups that want to make use of stormwater runoff?
That's a very good question. Irrigation Ditch Association, that's what it's called.
Uh, irrigation supply ditch associations. I'm not familiar with this, so I am not.
I am not either. We might have to research that and have another bullets for you email.
Um, we do have time for a couple more questions. If you do have questions, please feel free to put those in the Q&A. While you're thinking of those questions, I can go ahead and drop the CEU code in the chat. So the response about the association, they distribute irrigation water.
Georgia Ditch Irrigation Ditch Association, that's what it says.
Mhm. Um, I'm going to pronounce this terribly wrong, and I apologize in advance, but she says acequia associations in New Mexico, especially. It's ACEQUIA. Uh, Not familiar with that, but I know water is a issue there in the desert, so perhaps
Yeah,
they're a bit more advanced than we are here in Georgia. Let me
absolutely.
get the sign-in sheet for everybody and go ahead and drop some more Q&A while I am doing that. Looks like there's some great discussion in the chat about street tree species, so make sure to check that out as well. So if you are here for CEU credit, I have now put that form in the chat. If you submit that form, I will go ahead and submit that to the ISA for one CEU. And again, this is being recorded, so I will send out a copy of the recording and some of the other resources mentioned in a follow-up email. A question, are you available to talk to community groups and maybe city sustainability groups?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at Una Smith. She said, I asked about irrigation ditches because historically they were essential to the success of colonial rice farm. Well, I think maybe you're talking about irrigation canals that they're built to flood the rice fields. Might be what we don't flood here in the state of Georgia. I mean, we have a very strong, but like I was in Montana. Couple weeks ago, and they do flood alfalfa, and they flooded. It is impressive. They're still doing that, but they do it. So yeah, that might be why. But we don't here in the state of Georgia. We don't flood any rice, and I don't think we produce much rice. But we don't flood anymore. I am originally from Honduras. When I was in college, we used to have those irrigation canals, and we used to flood areas to plant rice, flooding conditions. So yeah, you're right. They were essential for those farms. Um, Yes, I can talk, the question about the municipalities, yeah. You can, share my information and we can get that. Actually, it is on our best interest in extension to collaborate with local governments, especially cities, because there's not much road tapes of the counties, and they are, they have plus funds that they can develop um, green infrastructure projects, and that's actually very, very ideal. And that's one of the things that we want for we want to target an extension of those stakeholders or organizations at the local governments.
Great question, Trixie. Trixie, I will also send out Rolando's contact information so that you can reach out to have him speak for your community organization. So that is a great question. Lots of information that will be sent out. So make sure everyone you look for that follow-up email coming to you later on this week, most likely, once I get the video uploaded to YouTube. Any last minute questions? There is the CEU form in the chat, so make sure you check that out before it will disappear when I end this webinar. So make sure to go ahead and fill that out now. Thank you so much for your time, Rolando. I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and expertise with our community. It's always a pleasure to speak with you, and hopefully I will see many of you at the Griffin campus of UGA, where the extension is located, or the headquarters is located, for a summer workshop, which is in about a month. So hopefully I'll see you all there. And I hope you have a wonderful evening, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.